city manager.
Now they're on.
Test.
Yeah. Now.
Thank you.
Nice work, Chief.
So much. All right. So I'll start all over again. Welcome to the February 10th City Council meeting. And we have changed the order of business slightly. So our first order of business is committee reports and items of interest. Do I have counselors who have something? Counselor Taylor?
They're still not
Mike is
working.
still not working.
Is this one working?
We just gotta talk into it.
Gotta talk into it, man.
No, it's not me, it's the mic. Thank you. Okay, life is better with partners. Okay, thank you. All right, so Counselor Taylor, anybody else? Counselor Ye? Counselor Clark? Okay, take it away, Counselor Taylor.
Thank you. First, the bus service in South Eugene is in danger, and I think we should do anything we can to influence LTD to actually improve bus service in South Eugene. They tell us it's not going to be abolished, it will just be changed, but there will be less frequency and people will have to walk farther. And the idea, they say, I got the impression that they want to make it better for some people and sacrifice South Eugene because it's less densely populated. I think it's really important to have good bus service with our climate recovery goals. It's really important to make it easy for people to ride buses if we want them to ride them. And it should be for all the people all over the city, not just for some parts of the city. So I think that's a really important thing that we need to do. They tell us that they're going to do a big information project, but the information doesn't change it. It just tells people this is what's going to happen. It's like, and the other item I wanted to talk about was STRs, which we will be discussing eventually. But there was an excellent article in Saturday's paper, editorial page, about STRs, which everybody should read, I think. And the City Club on March 6th will have a program on STRs which will include people from the university who've done a study of STRs, short-term rentals. I shouldn't be saying STRs. Short-term rentals, which includes Airbnbs in the state of Oregon, which are supplanting rental housing for residents in some cases. But at any rate, I urge you to everyone to read this article, the Saturday Register Guard, and to attend the City Club on March 6th. Thank you.
Thank you. Counselor Ye.
Thank you. I will mention that the transit tomorrow was a proposal and not a finished plan. And I had the opportunity to speak to my representative, LTD, and they have made changes, and a new proposal is will be rolled out very soon, taking into account all the public feedback that they have received, and that all areas of the city had changes, not just South Eugene. So it's a comprehensive look at how we can do better at transit. I had two events that I went to recently that I wanted to share with council and the public. The first was Casa Cultural Frida Kahlo, which is a new nonprofit in our community that mission is to honor and celebrate Mexican culture through dance and music and art, but they're hoping to create a space that welcomes all cultures in our community and is welcoming and is a place where they can share that art and music and dance amongst all of ourselves. And if people are interested to learn more about that effort, you can go to casafrida.org. It's a very excellent opportunity, and I got to see some great dances from different cultures. The other event was the Abolish Movement. It was a town hall about the Abolish Movement. Chief Skinner was there as well. It was also sponsored by the Eugene Airport, which was great. It was hosted by the Junior League of Eugene, and if you have not heard of the Abolish Movement, it is a national campaign for human trafficking awareness, particularly child sex trafficking, and the Junior League of Eugene has taken this up as their primary campaign here in Eugene that they're going to be working on in the coming years. If you want to learn more about that, you can go to the Junior League of Eugene's website, and they have more information about how they are trying to bring awareness of this important problem all over our country and how it's oftentimes invisible, as well as trying to teach people how to look for warning signs of those who may be experiencing human trafficking in their lives, and to remember that we often think about what if I'm wrong, and we don't report, but it's really more important for us to think about what if we're right, and to look for warning signs, and you can learn more on their website.
All right, thank you. Counselor Clark.
Thank you, Mayor. A really ugly event happened in our community on Saturday night, and I've been thinking for 2 days about what I'm going to say about it. I want to be measured, and I want to be restrained. I felt pretty strongly about it. So I've given it a lot of thought, and I want to say that we had what some news media called a protest occur on Saturday night in a local restaurant. Now, when a couple dozen people come into a restaurant, drop a banner in the middle of the place, and start yelling and shouting at patrons, that's not a protest. That's an assault. That's designed with intimidation in mind. And the gentleman who owns that restaurant has been speaking out in our community. And frankly, I think it's a crime. I know the police showed up today, and they have video of everybody who participated. I hope they're prosecuted to the fullest extent of the law, because that was a crime. I have faith that they will be. The thing that bothers me more about that, though, than anything else, is the thing we talk about at this table in our public forum, that when someone speaks out in our community, and this is someone who regularly with his restaurant feeds the homeless, regularly does a lot of community-minded things to try and serve others, aside from having a great place, and this is somebody who's worked his own way up from homelessness, worked hard for what he has, and to be a contributing member of our community. When he speaks out and says, I don't like the lawlessness taking place in our community and the fact that I'm a victim of it. And for that, he gets intimidated and harassed inside his own restaurant. I was trespassing, and told, essentially, you should shut up or else. I find that as ugly a thing as I can imagine, and I'm glad the police are investigating it, and I would be happy to be helpful in any way I can in their process, because this is a community where we all don't agree. But we have to be able to talk to one another civilly when we don't. And you don't get to go in somebody's house and tell them, and shout them down because you disagree with them. That's not okay. And so I just needed to say that. Thanks.
Thank you. Well said. I think I agree that we do not want to see this kind of incident happen in our community, that people are intimidated and trespassed and harassed. So thank you for speaking to it. I want to just take 2 seconds. I missed the last council meetings in January because I was on the annual, what we call United Front Trip, which is the cities of Eugene, Springfield, Lane County, Lane Transit District, Willamette Lane, Parks and Rec, and the Springfield Public Schools have gone every year this was the 35th year, 35 years to go to Washington, D.C. to advocate for federal funds to come into our community. And the focus this year that we all spoke about was actually improvements to Franklin Boulevard, which we're looking at wanting to have two-way passage of LTD and wanting that to be a good multimodal corridor that encourages bike riding and walking. It's a major investment. And we actually got a pretty positive response, both from the Department of Transportation and from our legislators. So I think we're feeling like it was a very, very constructive trip. There were many other meetings. We went to 40 meetings in 2 days. So lots of touching base with a lot of different agencies on different issues. I attended a number of meetings with HUD about homelessness, and actually also went to the Environmental Protection Agency, which has funded our brownfields development.
So enabling us to do the development along the riverfront that we now are able to indulge in because we've gotten that EPA funding. We're part of that Brownfields Coalition. And I specifically asked, as I have often asked, for EPA to explore ways in which they might support us as we look to kind of restore our riparian habitat and address homelessness camping along our river. So I'm kind of interested in ways in which we could make it safer and cleaner. And I'm participating in the Trashy Tuesday tomorrow on a Willamette Riverkeeper. So I'll have a firsthand report for all of you of what that actually looks like. Okay, Councilor Clark, one more.
Yeah, just a little bit. I don't think I said this, that restaurant was called the Elkhorn Brewery. And I ate lunch there today because they're awesome and they make great food. But I think it would be, if other community members feel the way I do, a good way to, support the victim of that is to stop in and eat there. It's really good. So just thought I'd add that too.
Thank you. Thank you. Okay, the next item on the agenda is the consent calendar. Can I have a motion?
And move to approve the consent calendar.
Second.
All in favor? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. All right, that passes. Thank you so much. So now, thank you for your patience. We are ready for the public forum. The public forum is an opportunity for individuals to speak to City Council on any city-related issues except for those items which have already been heard by a hearings official or are on tonight's agenda as a public hearing. Each person will have 2 minutes to speak. When you come to the podium, please give your name, city of residence, and for Eugene resident, your ward if known. The timer and lights indicate the time you have to speak. The yellow light will turn on when you have 15 seconds to complete your comments. The red light and a beep indicate the end of the 2 minutes. This is a piloting effort by council which chose to make several changes to the public forum process, which we hope will be a more effective and equitable experience for everyone. So in addition to this, I don't think this is going to be an issue today. In addition to this shortened time, we're reducing the overall time for public forum to 90 minutes. If the number of speakers, well, I think we only have 10 speakers, so I don't need to go into what we do if we have too many. I will read 2 names at a time. As always, the first person can come to the podium. The second person can come to the chair on deck to be ready to speak when it's their turn. And, just a reminder that in order to maintain a safe and respectful environment for everyone to be able to speak and to be heard, we ask you to respect the rules outlined in our code of conduct, including no disruptive or disrespectful language or noises, no clapping, cheering, or booing, and we encourage a silent show of hands in support of testimony. Also, a reminder, no bags, briefcases, or backpacks are allowed up on the testimony table or speaker's podium. And so we reserve the right to ask people not to speak or close the meeting if people cannot follow these simple rules. So with that said, we have 10 speakers. They are now randomized. First up is Joe Schmidlin, followed by Andrea Nelson.
Good evening. My name is Joe Schmidlin, and I'm an Airbnb host in Ward 1 at 1940 Oak Street in Eugene. My wife, Rebecca, and I moved to Eugene in 2016 for my job. We bought our first house 2 years later, a small duplex in need of some repair. It was affordable and would provide a separate living space for our parents when they came to visit our baby on the way, Anna. When we moved, my wife left behind her family's restaurant business. Needing some additional income, we opened up our duplex to guests as a short-term rental through the Airbnb platform when we did not have family in town. The rewards for being a short-term rental host have gone far beyond much-needed help paying our bills. We have had the pleasure of hosting more than 300 stays. Our guests are often parents visiting their kids at U of O or helping them move in, couples searching for a new home in Eugene, or traveling professors in town to teach a class. One of the most rewarding experiences as hosts came right after the huge snowstorm on February 25th last year that left 11,000 in our city without power. I received an Airbnb message on the morning of the 26th from a father named Mark, and I quote, "Praying that you have heat, electricity, and hot water." Mark was seeking refuge with his 2 young kids after they lost power the previous night. We were overjoyed to be able to offer Mark and his kids a warm place to stay for the next 2 nights for just $10 a night, the lowest Airbnb lets you charge. This was a time when the community needed to come together and help one another, a time when strangers became family. And that's what Airbnb is all about, welcoming others into our community and making them feel at home. Being a short-term rental host gives us this opportunity to make a positive impact on our community and its people. Thank you.
Thank you. Andrea Nelson, followed by Rowan.
Hi, I'm Andrea Nelson, and I am a non-owner occupied Airbnb owner. It is in Ward 3 near the university. My personal residence is in Ward 1 on Friendly Street. I am a single mom of 2 teenagers that attend South Eugene High School. My 16-year-old, she and I clean our Airbnb together. I buy flowers and baked goods from local companies, our neighbors in our community, to welcome people into Eugene and show them what Eugene is all about. I am so proud to do that for my community. I am proud to live in Eugene, and I'm proud to welcome people here. My neighbors, they all know, the neighbors of my Airbnb know how to get in touch with me if there's loud music or any kind of activity that they're uncomfortable with. They all know how to reach me. I'm just so proud to do this for the city of Eugene. And we have Hayward Field now that is such a beacon for our community. And whether you love sports or not, we should be proud. We are proud to have this. The university is doing so well in so many different ways, and let's invite people into our community and give them a warm and welcoming place to stay and enjoy Eugene. Show them where the good restaurants are, whether it be Elkhorn Brewery or wherever they want to go get coffee, or I've gone down to the Eugene. The welcome wagon and gotten all kinds of materials for these folks. Thank you.
Thank you. Rowan, followed by Joshua Korn.
Rowan, speaking about 5G. First off, just wanted to follow up Councilor Clark's suggestion to approach EWIC, which not just Josh and I, but also a third person did, and that was very informative. And my counselor or commissioner introduced me to the general manager, and basically, bottom line, general manager said that the city controls the application process, and so I'm kind of back to where do I put my time and energy consistent with my health concerns around 5G. And so I'm going to be doing more research, and I'll be getting back to you on that. But meanwhile, I've been trying to step back and sort of, I've been asking myself, is there a bigger picture going on? Is there something important that I might be missing and that we might be missing? And well, I'll just start with myself. And 5G attaches to glass, fiberglass, fiber optics. And I found a book by a Harvard law professor who worked as a technology advisor to President Obama. Her name is Susan Crawford. And she tells the story of a city of similar size to Eugene, Chattanooga, Tennessee, 180,000 people. And they persuaded voters, I guess somebody in government persuaded them to fund the investment of putting fiber optics into the ground. And the telecoms fought it. But they went ahead anyway and brought everyone's costs way down and found ways to do it, healthy ways to do it. So I'll be looking more into that specifically. Thank you.
Thank you. Joshua Korn, followed by David Piccioni.
Joshua Korn, resident of South Eugene. The Children's Health Defense is a nonprofit organization which was started by Robert Kennedy Jr. And the big news is that they have submitted a pretty significant lawsuit against the FCC. And the issue at hand with that lawsuit, which was submitted on February 2nd, that just passed, is that the FCC is still sitting on these old regulations, 25-year-old regulations based on thermal effects from microwave radiation in regulating these antenna systems. And this is despite clear scientific evidence that non-thermal effects do exist and have been established in the scientific literature. And in 2012, the General Accountability Office published a report recommending that the FCC reassess these guidelines, and they opened a docket for asking for public comment, and despite a huge amount of evidence, they closed that in December of last year, and that's what this lawsuit is about, to actually request this be overturned and be looked at actually with the scientific evidence that exists at this point. So I have this here and wanted to give you a copy of it. I was going to read some, but I'll have to save that for next time.
Thank you.
Thanks.
David Piccioni, followed by Paulina Romo.
Hi, David Piccioni. Yeah, about what you were talking about, Mike. I might be on your side and the side of the business if I knew what the protesters were protesting against, because you left that part out. You got a thesis and an antithesis, and out of that, you synthesize the result. So I would like to know that, and maybe I'd support you. Did I hear they wanted to charge $1 million for one parking space? No. Yes? No? Okay, know that. Okay. There's a precept, very little known in Buddhism, that says that you should not destroy places of habitation. There's nothing that can be done about tearing down the old city hall, but this could help us in the future. There's so many raw materials that are used to build houses: cement, wood, wire, glass, power for it. And we do have a parking space over on Charlton between 8th and Broadway, which is free on weekends and Saturday and Sundays. We go there if you want to go to the Theos. I think it would be really, really important that we start to see things in their perspective, because the people that we're talking today about building this, and you were all discussing it, I think there needs to be an auditor or somebody checking the progress if you decide to build this at every single stage, because I mean, it's a business. It's not, we're not friends. We're trying to make a business here, and they're trying to make money, and we're trying to get the good stuff. So I think it would be necessary to.
Thank you. Paulina Romo, followed by Todd Boyle.
Hello, good evening. My name is Paulina Romo, and I belong to Ward 3. I am part of the Eugene Short-Term Rental Association. I am here because we have an Airbnb room attached to our house, and I am worried about regulations that might not allow me to have this as a supplemental source of income. One of the reasons I love having this supplemental income, in addition to working part-time now, is because it is allowing me to use my time to train myself on topics that I want to teach to different groups as a volunteer in this community. I am becoming a master gardener and want to volunteer with teaching classes for the Latino community. I highly believe in being involved in causes that improve our society and communities for everyone. I used to work as an executive director of a nonprofit, and sadly, the job was so intense that it depleted me of energy and did not allow me to earn enough money to save for retirement. I loved the cause and I loved helping, but the workload was too much. With the Airbnb, my life feels more balanced and I can give back without depleting myself so much. I also would like this unit to help us maintain an okay standard of living when we retire and not fall into a bracket of poverty as many seniors sadly do. Without the unit, I will certainly have to work full-time again and forget about my plans for volunteering, as it makes me sad because our imperfect societies and communities need volunteers to do important work. Our unit would not work as a long-term rental unit because it does not have a kitchen and it is very small. I love to offer affordable accommodations, and most of our guests are young people, working people that come for trainings, as well as single parents visiting their children. One time we hosted a person whose friend was dying here in town, and we let them prolong their stay for free until their friend passed away. I don't think a hotel will allow you to do that. I trust that you will consider these situations and how this type of income is helping many people be more self-sufficient while it brings money to our local economy and provides travelers with accommodations that are sometimes more affordable. Thank you.
Thank you. Todd Boyle, followed by Valerie Harris.
Todd Boyle, Amazon neighborhood. Just want to urge the council to refrain from outbursts while I'm speaking, but if you agree with me, then you can do twinkles. The first issue I'm going to bring up is the auditor measures that were floated 2 years ago, in which thousands of people 2 years ago at this time were very engaged in whether we should have a city-appointed auditor or an elected auditor, and something over 70% is the simple total of the two votes for who voted for one or the other of those measures. And so I urge the council to reopen that issue and come up with the auditor. You're the ones who actually, I believe, endorsed the city-appointed auditor measure. So let's get that thing rolling. Let's get a performance auditor. And the second issue is the issue at the Elkhorn and the oppositional phenomenon that's going on between the homeless advocates and some of the homeless advocates and some of the anti-homeless population. And really, to my mind, if there's going to be a banner drop, it should be like here in City Hall, you know, because this is where the decisions are made and how fast the TAC report is going to be implemented. There's actually a big, huge process going on. And I urge everyone to go and read the Eugene Wake Up Facebook group and the volume of commentary there and the character of those comments. It just reveals that they're not aware of what's going on, and that we have a lot of common ground. Everybody wants to like do something about it on both sides. And so I would call for more leadership than just to weigh in on one side or the other, like going to the Elkhorn and supporting them, or going to the church over there and supporting the homeless. We need leadership to bring together those two camps into more of a Geneva Convention or something like that. Sorry, thanks.
Thank you. Valerie Harris, followed by Lynn Woodridge.
Hi, I'm Valerie Harris, Eugene, Ward 5. Tonight I want to talk a little bit about short-term rental guests that I have. So I am a host here. I rent rooms in my home. And about a year ago, I started renting to a lot of different types of people, everyone from people that are here for health concerns or here because they need temporary housing while they work. It's a lot of different types of people. And one instance that I wanted to tell you about was a couple that had lost their home. They had health issues and they could no longer keep their home, so they lost it. And they came to live with me trying to figure out where to live after they no longer had their home. And they decided to stay long-term, which happens a lot. It probably happens about 10% of the time that people turn from short-term rentals to long-term rentals in my home in a room because they like living there. So these people, after the 30 days, they're still there, and they had another health issue about a month ago, and they can no longer pay. So they came to me and they said, well, either we're going to have to live in our van or we can't pay you anymore. And so of course, I'm not going to put them out in the street, so they haven't been paying me for the last six weeks, and I, happily will have them stay until they can get back on their feet. So as hosts, we are not hotels. We are people trying to host people within our community, visitors, people that are here to work. It's just a different type of thing that you can't meet these needs with hotels. You just can't. This is different than this has been around for centuries, right? Where people had rooms in their homes or homes that they were sharing with other people. It's been going on forever. We just happen to have a better platform now. Thank you.
Thank you. Lynn Woodrich, followed by Catherine Dunn.
Hi. My name is Lynn Woodrich, and I'm the Active Bethel Citizens Co-Chair, living in Ward 6 with my dad, who's 91, and I'm a homeowner in the Bethel portion of Ward 8. My question is, when will Envision Eugene be implemented in Bethel? I see that you have a work session scheduled for Bethel redevelopment on April 22nd at noon. I'm hoping this is the first step in building a better Bethel, the report that was prepared in 2014 and never implemented. The lack of city investment in Bethel is obvious to everyone. Highway 99 is an eyesore and will be the gateway to Eugene from the airport for athletes and visitors to the World Track and Field Championships, called the world's largest sporting event of 2021. The disproportionate way the Bethel area has been treated shows how the power of affluence influences city funds over the middle-class citizens' voices. Thank you.
Thank you. And finally, Catherine Dunn.
Catherine Dunn, Ward 5, part of the Eugene Short-Term Rentals Association. One of the most common complaints about short-term rentals is that the non-owner occupied units affect the housing shortage because they take long-term rentals off the market. We have 33,600 rentals in Eugene, according to a city memo. And 643 of those are entire homes, according to AirDNA. However, some of those entire homes are not legal dwellings. Many of them don't have kitchens, for example. So an independent study was done to determine that 460 entire homes appear to be legal dwellings with a kitchen, and they could become long-term rentals again if the owner so desired. That's just 1.4% of all rental properties in Eugene, 1.4%. Such a small percentage that shows that non-owner occupied short-term rentals are clearly not the reason for Eugene's housing shortage. In fact, a recent report commissioned by the City Council entitled Eugene Housing Tools and Strategies Evaluation, which was done in January 2020, did not even mention STRs. The study did find that Eugene needed to build more low-cost housing, and it identified that 58% of households in Eugene are rent-burdened or severely rent-burdened. 36% were severely rent-burdened, 36% of those 58%. And a similar share of Eugene owner households or homeowners are mortgage-burdened and severely mortgage-burdened. So if measures are taken to severely regulate or ban non-owner occupied short-term rentals, that would only create more financial hardship for owners who are using their short-term rentals to make ends meet, fund retirement, and for other financial reasons. What this report did recommend to the city is that it promote or subsidize the building of smaller, more affordable housing, multifamily housing, especially 1 to 4 units, because we need more rentals below $650 per month. Thank you.
Thank you. And that ends the public forum. I have Councilor Clark wanting to make a comment. Anybody else? Councilor Syrett and Councilor Evans. Okay. Take it away.
Thank you, Mayor. I just wanted to say to the two gentlemen that yes, it's true that the city controls the application process. That's what I was trying to communicate in the first place. And I hope I'll try this differently, maybe, metaphorically. Sorry, man. want to impinge on Captain Metaphor here, but if the utility poles were houses, the city's the property management company that takes the application, but the decision about whether or not to rent that house in the first place is the owner's. And that's the point. eWeb can decide to rent space on those poles or not. If they decide, yep, we're going to rent space on those poles, then the city does control the application process. But those commissioners can decide the conditions under which they will rent space on those poles. So you might want to consider talking with them about their decisions with regard to that at a board meeting. Thanks.
I was just going to add, Rowan, if you give me your contact information, I'll have our staff talk to you as well, so to help clarify that.
Yeah. Okay, Councilor Syret.
Thank you. Thanks, everyone, for coming to speak. Really appreciate hearing from you all. I just wanted to respond to a couple of things. Mr. Doyle, Todd, sorry, can't remember if I'm pronouncing your last. Boyle, thank you. Thank you. I absolutely agree, and I brought this up in a meeting with staff recently, that we need to do a better job of informing the community about the progress we are making to implement the recommendations in the TAC report. We are actually doing a lot, and in fact, the county has filled the position of the strategic manager, who's going to be dedicated to looking for those permanent supportive housing units that we need to build. And it was clear to me from the public comment, which I watched on television because I was home ill, from the Wake Up Eugene folks, that a lot of them aren't up to date on all the ways that we are currently providing services to prevent homelessness, providing shelter, and all the other projects. And I don't hold that against them, but I do hope we can all do a better job, but the city and the county, to updating folks about what we're doing. It's become more challenging. We lost our locally owned paper, and the reporters who used to be dedicated to covering the work of this body no longer are able to have that dedicated assignment. So that's also kind of shortchanged our ability to get our news out. So it makes the challenge even greater, but we still need to do better. On the Better in Bethel comments, it just occurred to me, I believe that in our budget we have set aside some money for welcoming the community for the World Championships, and I wonder if there's any thought about doing some beautification work along Highway 99 with those funds as part of that effort.
We're actually already planning some beautification, so that's in the mix. And in fact, Councilor Evans and I were talking on Friday with Matt Rodriguez about some other possibilities for infrastructure improvements in that whole section. So.
Great, thank you. And then thanks to all the Airbnb hosts who came and shared your great input on how you use your rentals and how they help to create a way to welcome people in our community and make them feel at home. I really appreciate you coming down to speak. I just want to broadcast the things that I'm thinking about in terms of potential regulation. I think we should set up a registration program that has a small fee to administer that, a requirement for a local contact that is always reachable, whether by neighbors or by the city in case of issues coming up while the rental is in progress. And also perhaps a cap on how many we allow, maybe a cap on whole homes that could meet the standard of a livable unit. So those are some of the things that I'm considering, and there are other things we had on the table that I'm not as interested in pursuing. So thanks for coming down.
Councilor Evans.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor, and thank everyone for coming out. I just want to go to a couple of points here. Councilor Taylor mentioned the proposed changes in transit tomorrow, and I will note that in that first iteration, one of the bus routes that was slated for demolition or removal, if you will, was my bus route. So, that proposal would have negated access to public transportation for everybody west of North Terry. So that's one thing. I think that what's happening, and I serve on the Strategic Long-Range Planning Committee for LTD, is they're revising what they're doing, they're coming back, and they're listening to what the testimony is and what the needs are out there, and also looking at what the system needs in terms of being more efficient and more effective than what it currently is right now. Are some people going to be disproportionately affected by that? Perhaps. But I think that we need to let the process work itself out before we, make a final determination on whether it's successful or not. And the second thing, again, to Bethel Development, and I appreciate what, Claire has said about that, but we need more in-depth development. We need to have, a plan for Bethel that talks about what we're going to do with commercial retail development and what we're going to do about housing and, residential development, because that corridor is prime for both. And it is one of the last places in Eugene that is, it's been neglected. And we need to do something about that and do that differently. So, yes, we need to have, Envision Eugene implemented in Bethel the same way it's been going over in River Road in Santa Clara, which has been a great process. A lot of people turned out for that, and I'll tell you, there will be a lot of people that turn out for Bethel. Thanks.
Okay, everybody else set? Thank you all so much for coming. Thank you for your comments, and we are adjourned.